What's going on, guys? So the PTS for the Division 2 has been out, and with it brought a ton of new changes. I have played the PTS for a straight 5 days to really get a sense of what the changes are and how it affects the game. Between the recent nerfs, buffs to weapons, and talents, there's just so much to go over, and with the patch coming out soon, I would like to take this time to tell you what's on my mind regarding the patch and what it has to offer. Now, I probably won't hit every key aspect of what the patch changes, but hopefully I can hit some pointers that you guys have had questions about. I mostly play PvE, a little of PvP, but my whole focus was that they changed with the overall feel of the game, and personally, I love the balance that was implemented. Take this with a grain of salt. These are my opinions and nothing I say set in stone or essentially how it should be. I would like to take a brief moment and say thank you for the support, and a like is greatly appreciated to help the channel grow. Please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be informed when I deliver new content. Without further ado, let's get started. So we'll start across the board with PvE balance to AI on hard and challenging. The balance to the AI has been drastically changed. No longer do the enemies suicide rush you into the ground, but they actually make use of their flanking abilities to corner you, in which you have only a limited amount of time to make a split-second decision whether you are going to stay in your cover or move around the enemies. The sponginess of the advanced AI is gone. No longer are you wasting magazine after magazine just to try and eliminate their armor, but the feel of the DPS from the weapons you use are great, and seeing that armor deplete while still firing down range to deplete their health is a great feeling. It's almost like TD1 during legendary missions. The challenge was there, but the balance of you versus the enemy was equivalent. Now, with the power your agent has, you will see during hard and challenging missions that you're going to be able to breeze through them like butter. At first, I thought it was a bug, being that the enemies were dying tremendously fast, but I guess that is just how it is with hard and challenging. I kid you not, doing a hard solo was probably a 5 to 10 minute mission, depending on the mission, where challenging was more like 10 to 12 minutes because of the added enemies due to scaling. The missions and invading missions are an absolute breeze to get through, literally with no complications. I had maybe 2 elites during challenging DCD, but the rest were normal red NPCs. I don't know if this is intended, but the variety is most of the time is light, medium, heavy. Overall, the feel of hard and challenging are a step up or down depending on how you see it from the most recent patch. Now for PvE balanced AI during heroic. I wanted to make a separate heading for heroic because this is a change to how it was. The enemy AI again doesn't rush you like they used to. They don't spam their drones or airbursts, except the elite grenadier does still launch 3 consecutively. They consider exactly where you're positioned and which better way to flank you, and literally makes you think while solo where your next move should be. The enemies do not feel as bullet spongy as they used to be, and that makes a huge difference. The aggressive nature is almost non-existent, except for the one-hit punch, but actually playing heroic actually feels like a challenge and not a death sentence. Heroic mode overall is something that has indeed been reworked, but I still think that the time to kill should be diminished, or at least another damage to armor perks should be implemented into the gear sets. Perhaps to make True Patriot more viable, increase the DTA that the 2-piece has to at least 20%. Heroic mode should feel challenging and should test skills. However, as for a solo player, knowing that the chance of you dying and having to restart from the very beginning is too high regarding a split even chance of succeeding or failing. I feel that with a couple minor tweaks, we can get the difficulty just over how legendary mode was in the Division. Scalability. This coincides with heroic difficulty. Even the changes to the NPCs are noticeable. I can't help but feel that when playing on heroic solo, that the difficulty is scaled to a 4-man team rather than to the individual. It could be my perception, and I am prepared to take it for what it's worth. However, some clarity on the subject should be acknowledged. The video that you're currently seeing is of the heroic Tidal basin during solo, but this is not with Tidal Update 3. This is just with the most recent NPC patch. My current gear on Tidal Update 3 during the PTS was not what I have here, so it would have taken me forever to actually record what you're seeing now. So, with the weapons. I played with a multitude of weapons, at least what I had in my inventory when Massive copied the character over. The weapons feel more valuable and powerful, but the talents are still lackluster and should be further evaluated. Assault rifles feel great, and the DPS from them feel very exceptional. SMGs are tightly grouped, and you can tell the difference between how it used to be and what it could potentially be in this update. Rifles feel better, but the overall DPS of them should be increased slightly to cooperate with the weapon type. MMRs are powerful, and hoping and assuming they buff others rather than nerf any, they should stay where they need to be, given that the long-range DPS should be considered effective rather than ineffective. LMGs are still viable and overall a great utility to use if you want quick DPS downrange. Shotguns still need a buff, at least in PvE. As a close-range weapon, one shot should deplete enemy armor and one other shot should deplete the enemy health bar. It's as simple as that when it comes to CQB weapons. On to the specializations. Let's face it, specializations need to be reworked. A specialization should feel significantly powerful. The breeze of destroying enemy AI should be noticeable and instantly gratifying. The 50 caliber sniper rifle should provide that one shot, one kill feel regardless of difficulty. You should feel powerful. The explosive crossbow should deplete armor instantly with a damage over time incentive. The M32A1 needs to clear enemies from one explosive grenade. Power, power, power. These need to feel worth using rather than just selecting because we must use them. Massive. Specialization 4. Should it be implemented out in the world instead of just the raid, it needs to feel powerful. Make the specializations worth our time. Gear talents and changes. Where to begin? The talent changes and the overall nerfs of the requirements really makes you choose to run and dedicate your build to. From what I have tested and seen, you are either a dedicated DPS builder, tank builder, or a primary skill builder. I feel that there is no common ground when it comes to being concurrent across the board. Sacrifices have to be made, and that is where Master's trying to lean everyone. At least from my point of view. You can't have your cake and eat it too, is what I'm trying to point out. If you want a high DPS, you're going to have to sacrifice your survivability. If you want to be a skiller, you're going to have to sacrifice your DPS. There are so many grounds of delimiting abilities that at this point, your choices are going to be greatly affected with the type of gear you have and what you want to run. There will be builds that will try and find a common ground amongst the talents from the nerfs that were implemented. However, it will take some time and dedication to the game to achieve the desired build. However, I am not too inclined about the consistent gear score upgrade with consistent patch drops and having to farm gear all over again, but that is for another subject. The Dark Zone. I did spend some significant time in the Dark Zone to try and acquire the 515 gear score. There were ups and downs to this, so I will try to express as much thought as I can. The DZ was empty, completely empty. I didn't run into a single person over the 2 hours I was in there, except for the enemy AIs. Of course, the PTS is only for PC, which makes sense, but having the server literally to myself to farm really did feel great. It did eventually get lonely not having anyone else run around, along with not having the adrenaline of running away from a group of rogues, but it did make me realize that having a dedicated PvE DZ would not be such a bad idea. There is a theory going around of having a hunter dedicated to DZ, which would provide a very great challenge and a significant change to the DZ, also in keeping with the PvP aspect. I do occasionally like the DZ as a PvP arena. It is just good practice, and when you go into the DZ, you're signing a virtual liability waiver because you know what happens when you come across a group of rogues and it's either you versus them. The DZ has potential, just like in the first division, to truly be something unique and fun. I'm not for the DZ, nor am I against the DZ in any manner. It is what it is at this point, and we are going to have to learn to adapt to the DZ and the changes that are coming over time. Gear score 515. Yes, it sucks that gear score 515 is locked behind the Dark Zone and the raid. The Division community is so used to having high gear score drop in all activities, but if the devs have stated what is true and the power lies in the DZ and the raid, hopefully, then maybe giving them a chance to actually see if this will be beneficial might help with distribution of the higher tier gear score. Now, Massive is open to new and expanding ideas, so jumping to conclusions should not be the immediate reaction if the gear score 515 is powerful as the devs say it will be. Now let's see how this will function. Overall, Tidal Update 3 is something to look forward to, especially with all the incoming changes. Do I feel it is a step back from how the Division 2 was delivered and launched as? No, not at all. This is only a path that is just beginning, and the way Massive delivers their game by focusing on what the community has to say should overall say something for the player base. Thank you for taking the time for watching this video regarding about the Tidal Update 3. This is all opinion based, but something I hope Massive will take into consideration on a few of the points that I have made. Thank you again, and take care.